The Godfather is a classic American film, one so famous that even if you have never seen it, you probably know the characters and many of the quotes from the film. It's also my dad's favorite movie, and he watched it over and over, usually after my mom had put us kids to bed. Many a night I'd hear that haunting trumpet solo drift up the stairs, and sometimes I'd be awakened by the dramatized shootout scenes if Dad forgot to turn the volume down. Given this, you might be surprised to know I never actually saw The Godfather until I was in my mid-20s, even though I was allowed to watch rated R movies starting at around junior high. Why did it take so long? Because my dad, being the arch fan that he was, bought a special VHS box edition of the Godfather trilogy that was told in chronological order. This version of the movie opened up in Vito Corleone's childhood in Sicily, with his mother begging the local mafia don for her son's life. Then it followed apace along his journey to America. I only ever made it through to when Vito was a young man beginning his life of petty crime. I got bored and turned it off. Every single time. I was baffled. Why did everyone like this horrifically boring movie so much? It wasn't until I was 25 that I saw the first Godfather film as it was actually meant to be viewed. The theatrical cut of the film begins not in Sicily at a funeral, but in a shadowy room where the elderly Vito Corleone listens to a man describe an assault on his daughter. The man explains to Corleone that he wanted to be a good American, and thus, after the assault, he went to the police to report the assailants. But they received a suspended sentence. Marlon Brando's first line in the movie is, "Why did you go to the police? Why didn't you come to me?" This line cements exactly the story we're about to hear. We know from the dialogue that these men are Italian immigrants living in the U.S., and we can speculate from the clothing that it's in the past. All of that from a 7-minute conversation between two men. Amazing. This movie just came on TNT one day while I was cleaning the house, but I stopped vacuuming and I sat down and I watched the whole thing. That is the power of structure. The same story told in a different order made the difference between a boring slog and a fantastic story. Understand that while an autobiography covers the writer's entire life, usually in chronological order, a memoir is only about parts of your life. Autobiographies also place a high value on facts and dates, because they're usually about high-profile people who were a part of important events. Memoirs, on the other hand, work more like novels. It's important to establish time and place, but you shouldn't focus on minute details like marking every scene with a timestamp. Rather, you should craft your scenes with an emphasis on the emotional experience for the reader. So how should you structure your memoir to accomplish this? Like I said, for a memoir, even though it's not fiction, you will order your scenes and chapters as if it were. To begin, your prologue or your first chapter must be outstanding. This is what will get your reader invested. Unfortunately, subscription services like Kindle Unlimited are a double-edged sword, particularly to new writers. They encourage readers to take a chance on an unknown author, but they also make it easy just to give up on books after a few pages. The same can be said for agents if you plan to publish traditionally. They read so many chapter ones. Yours needs to rise above the pack. In the course materials, I've included a handout with examples of different memoirs and how they begin. You'll notice only one of them begins with something big, specifically 9/11. Most memoirs don't have something so dramatic in them. Your job is to determine your attention-getting moment. What is the main reason people would pick up your book? As we mentioned in the last lesson, this main reason is the theme of your book. When someone buys a memoir, more often than not, it's the theme they're looking for, not the person. Now, if you're a presidential candidate, or like Carmen bin Laden, you're related to an infamous or famous person, then this doesn't really apply to you. But most of us don't have that kind of existing fame or notoriety. And and the lives we live don't have international consequences. But the story you tell could reach hearts on an international scale. They're just buying a good book. So whatever your theme is, that is what your first chapter or prologue should give to the reader. Once you've laid out your theme, you've established what the book is about, only then can you get back into backstory or individual scenes. Each scene you choose for your memoir should have a specific purpose. Is it, for instance, backstory? Is it the inciting incident? Is it to provide character development or just to move the story forward? Though it might be difficult to think of yourself and those in your life as characters, as far as your memoir goes, that is exactly what they are and what you are. The inciting incident is what started you on the journey, your emotional or physical journey, that is, that you go through in this memoir, and you need to identify it before you start writing. Next, identify the conflicts that exist, both internal and external. I also recommend identifying at least 2 big plot points, which are moments in your story that either changed the path that you were on or brought you to a significant realization. In the middle of your story should be an apparent defeat or the all is lost moment. Then, the climax and the resolution should be identified to bring your story to a satisfying end. Now, this isn't the end of your total story, obviously, because you're still very much alive, but it is the end of the one you're telling right now. I've also included a worksheet in the course materials to help you work through these plot points in your own life, using the basic 3-act structure. Identifying these crucial plot points will make constructing your scene list that much easier and help you determine which parts of your life belong in the book and which ones definitely don't. All parts of your life are important in one way or another, so don't let that be your guidepost on whether or not to include them in your book. The question you should be asking is this compelling? Your memoir should be the same length as a novel, anywhere from 60 to 100,000 words, which may seem like a lot. But once you dive into your scenes, I think you'll find that space runs out pretty quickly if you're trying to write down everything that ever happened to you and every person you ever met within a 5-year span. So select your scenes ruthlessly. Determine how they align with your theme. If they don't, even if they made a huge impact on your life in general, they don't belong in the book. Remember the Godfather. How you structure your story makes all the difference.